Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining me from in the world. I'm Jack Lad. Welcome aboard to my ship. This is the Salt Pig. What are we talking about today? Well, it's the name that is on the tip of everyone's tongue right now. Everyone's favourite survivor, Eliza Bleu. Now, this is going to be a relatively short stream in comparison to normal, because I'm only talking about one subject, rather than a varied bunch of things. However, I am a little bit late to the game in this one, but however, I have been in the background doing an awful lot of research on this subject. And I've been getting involved in some Twitter spaces. Nathan, I think his name's Nathan, isn't it? Yeah. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, Nathan Stolpman, who's the he's on the Lift the Veil podcast. He's got a YouTube channel, Lift the Veil, and they've been doing some Twitter spaces lately. We've had Chrissy Mayer in there. We've had that Star Wars girl, Anna. Who else? Aviva Fry was in there the other night, and the Umbrella Man. And it's been quite productive. There's been a lot of people from all across the world, lots of different investigative journalists, YouTubers, you name it. People have been coming together to, I don't know, like, just find the truth, I guess. I mean, it was spoken about in that spaces, you know, like, well, what's the end goal here? And for some people, I guess, yes, cancel her because, you know, it seems like she's lying, I guess. But for a lot of people, it's just, I want to find the truth. You don't want to be duped. Do you know what I mean? No one wants to be, you know, conned. No one wants to be grifted. And we're not talking about Jeremy Hambley and his coffee kind of grift. This is something way bigger and way worse. And so we're going to get into it today. So Eliza Bleu, or Bleu, if you're one of the French. Eliza Bleu, where do we start with her? I mean, there's not really much at this point, given all the videos that have come out about her, there's not really much that I can say that people don't already know. We already know the backstory. We already know, you know, things that we know a lot more about her now. So what am I here to do? I'm just here to give you my opinion on everything. But a few things we're going to go through today is I'm going to debunk a little bit of confusion in the community regarding the My Chemical Romance era. We're going to take a look at Zuby's stream that she was on. We're going to take a rather, you know, close look at that, because I need to use that to give you an idea of something I didn't line up, actually, is Michael Malice's stream that he did with her, because you know, it just gives context to the whole situation. So I guess we'll just start right at the beginning. And so when I first knew about Eliza, it was on Twitter. I didn't know about her through any of the podcasts that she'd done. I just saw her being suggested an awful lot on Twitter. You know, like, she'd come up on the feed. And she was posting things like, you know, missing children reports. And I thought, well, that's not bad. I could help by retweeting those things, you know. If that's the case, you know, and she's doing good for the world, then fine, you know, let her carry on and do that. And so, yeah, that was all fine. I'm following her on Twitter right now, and I did that because I thought there was some good coming from this. Now, obviously, I watch The Quartering, and I saw from him that Brittany Venti had been banned, or from Twitter for posting a screenshot, and I think in solidarity he posted the same one, and then he got banned subsequently. And it was only because of that situation that I started looking into her and the things that people were saying about her. I had no clue. And when I started on this journey, I had no idea about how deep this rabbit hole was going to go. I've been writing a pre-recorded episode, and the more that I found out and the more that I had to try and fit this into like a script for like a pre-recorded YouTube video, the more I went into it, the longer it was getting. And then I was trying to make, concessions in parts of the script, just try and condense it, and it was almost impossible. So I've come like the whole week basically since the last stream I did, where I'd already mentioned about the quartering and Brittany Venti. I've already addressed Eliza on the last stream. And so this last week, it was supposed to have been done by now, the pre-recorded video. But here we are. It's another Wednesday night broadside, and I haven't got that script done because there was just too much. So I'm going to try and condense it all into this one episode, and that's why we're doing one subject today, because I want to try and get it all nicely fit in. So I'm actually going to start with this here, and this is an article from Teslarati from 2021, and it explains in a roundabout way what her initial story and her base claim is, right? So it's, let me change it over so you can see. There we are. I'll just zoom in a little bit for you. Maybe that's a bit better. No, there. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you anyway. Eliza Bleu went to the Vans Warped Tour with some friends. After meeting a photographer, she set her sights on the big city of Los Angeles, a far cry from her humble beginnings in rural Illinois. When she got to LA, her visit wasn't exactly what she expected it to be. It turned out that the photographer she had met was actually a recruiter for a human trafficking ring, and Bleu found herself in the middle of a trap, not knowing how she would get out. Eliza was sex trafficked for 9 years total before gaining the courage to attempt an escape one night from her apartment. Now she's a survivor advocate and a voice for those who don't have one. Her primary focus is fighting to alleviate the highly concentrated number of websites that harbour CP and human trafficking materials. And according to the Securities Exchange Commission in 2019, there were nearly 7 blah, 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 right? A theme that I've noticed with a lot of these articles that support her. They give the blurb about how she was trafficked, and then they just immediately start going into like the numbers, the figures about how many people are trafficked in the world, I guess. Right, so this first bit here, yeah. Eliza Bleu went to a Vans Warped Tour with some friends, right? In other places, like on Twitter, oh look, there's me. Hello, that's me. That is. In other places on Twitter, she has been, and other places in other interviews, she has said that she was 15, 15, when she met the photographer, and she was groomed for 2 years before she moved to LA on her just before her 18th birthday. And I've got sugary plums. Don't want you seeing that one. I'm gonna switch that off. Right, so it's this one. We're going to take a quick look at what her story is here. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit to 1.5, so it's at half extra speed. And I just need to switch the... I do apologize. I always do this. I need to switch it over and I never do the sound input. Right. I think it's that one. There we go. Hopefully you can see and hear this. Right, so here she goes. She's just about to explain again to this Candice Horvax, which is on her YouTube channel, and the podcast is called Chatting with Candice. So here she is. She's about to explain precisely what happened. No, that's not coming through. Give me a second.
And I had a driver's permit.
Hang on.
My story, girl, I'm gonna get you banned off YouTube. I'm bringing up all the horrible words, like, oh.
You see, like, that's a classic trick, that is. Yeah, she's stalling right there.
I've had some pretty outrageous people. I think we'll be good.
I watched some of your podcasts over the weekend. You have some great guests. I loved it, actually. I love
misdirecting there as well.
Just really good topics. It was really fun just to hear the different topics. It was good. I was really excited about it.
I'll bet you were.
So my story, I was homeschooled. So I was homeschooled, and I was groomed at age 15. I went to a concert, the Vans Warped Tour in Chicago.
Okay, sorry, I wanted to pause it, but I realised I needed to give you the full context to that sentence. She was 15. She went to a Vans Warped Tour concert. Going back to this one here, Eliza Bleu went to the Vans Warped Tour concert with some friends. Now, the one thing that I will say is that one of these friends that she went with better have been over 21, because otherwise she was breaking the law. Because as she says here in this next part, she says that she had a driver's permit, a learner's permit. She thought she was cool.
And I had a driver's permit. So I went, I had a driver's permit, thought I was cool, went to the Vans Warped Tour and met a photographer there. And the photographer spent 2 years grooming me. I don't know where 5 came from. 15 was probably in my head, but yeah, 2 years grooming.
Yeah, 15 was probably in your head because you're trying to tell people that you were groomed for 15 years. Now, that other Teslarati report says 9 years, so there's an inconsistency there. However, she's saying she was 15 when she went to Chicago to see the Vans Warped Tour with some friends. Now, I don't know many 15-year-olds that are driving 2.5 hours from Cordova, Illinois, which is where she grew up, and Chicago, right? It's 2.5 hours away. I don't know any, and besides which, she needs to be with a 21-year-old or over. That's approved by the parents. That's Illinois state law for someone with a learner's permit. So, and that's under 18s as well. So it doesn't matter whether it was this year, next year, the following year. Until she's 18, she has to go around with someone who is over 21. And I think that applies for any learner, quite frankly, whether you're over 18 or not. So anyway, she's going on about this. Yeah, I'm just trying to roll a cigarette at the same time. Yeah, look.
Grooming me. I actually went to Los Angeles to do a photo shoot with the photographer. And so everything sort of seemed pretty legit. I moved to Los Angeles before I turned 18, and just barely, because I graduated early because I was homeschooled.
There you go. So just before her 18th birthday, yeah, she moved to Los Angeles. And this photographer, who wasn't her boyfriend at all, right, yeah, who groomed her by mail and phone over 2 years, yeah, he then gives her this opportunity to go to LA to do this photo shoot, and then when she gets there, she's sold to another man for $500. Yeah, listen to her. This is what she says.
And with a few days of being there, I was promised the world. I was promised I was going to be a star. And my naivete really didn't work in my favor in this case. And I was sex trafficked right away. I was, they said it started with a couple beers. went to drugs. I was trying to fit in, be cool. I wanted to impress everybody, show everybody, you know, that I was cool, that I could fit in. And once I was on the drugs, then I was sold.
So a couple of days, 2, 3, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. A couple of days after you moved to LA, you're in a situation where you've been, like, over the last 3 days, let's say, you've been building up this sort of like camaraderie with people around the area or whatever. You've been drinking and you've been smoking some weed. Maybe you got into some heroin even, or some crystal meth, who knows? But you've been like, and so over 3 days, you got hooked on drugs. And then once you were hooked on the drugs, you were sold into sex slavery, into trafficking. Yeah, that's what happened. You didn't have a choice over this. Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay. So the concept of selling a human, to me, like, I can't even begin to break that down.
Yeah.
And I'm sure probably a lot of listeners can't either. It just seems like it only.
Yeah, because ambiguously saying that I was sold to another man into sex trafficking or sex slavery, right? That means that let's just put it into certain terms that we can understand. At some point, the photographer owned her and traded her off to another person for $500 who now owns her. Now, my question is, what does she mean by selling into trafficking? Did ownership transfer over to another person, or after she'd done something with that guy, did she come back with the money to her boyfriend or this photographer? So was the photographer her pimp, or, you know, what was going on there? She leaves it purposefully ambiguous, right? And that can be interpreted in a couple of ways, as I've just demonstrated. But nevertheless, I've already debunked that this is bullshit anyway, because she was 15, she drove to Chicago to the Vans Warped Tour, right? Where is it? I've got it lined up here somewhere. Not that one, not that. Ah, there it is. Right. She would have been 15 in 1996. Yeah, her 15th birthday would have been the 21st of May, 1996. She would have gone there and she would have seen Blink 182 play, the Deftones, Limp Bizkit, the Mighty Boss Tones, etc. On the south stage there, it's saying Goldfinger and Trip 66 and, you know, the Blue Meanies. Right, so let's just take a look at the dates. Where's Chicago? Chicago. No, I don't actually seem to find Chicago on there. No, unfortunately. And look, I know this is the Warped Tour fandom wiki, right? But because it's the fandom wiki, you would expect it to be somewhat accurate. Granted, it can be edited by anyone, I guess, but you have to it's got to be cited, right? Anyway, let's move on to 1997. Right. Some of the same bands. Weezer played there in 97. That's awesome. Right, let's have a look at the dates, shall we? Chicago. That turtle in town. Ah, there we go. Chicago, Illinois, 18th of July, 1997. That's like three months after your birthday. May, June, July. 2 months after your birthday. So in 1997 is when she must have gone to the Vans Warped Tour, because there is no way that she was there in 96. and she was 16. She was just after her 16th birthday. So that is a lie in itself. She says then that she was groomed for 2 years before moving to LA before her 18th birthday. It was just before her 18th birthday. So we can say without a doubt that between the 18th of July 1997 and, even if we were generous and gave it right up to her birthday in 1999 when she turned 18, yeah, that would be a year and 10 months. Okay, so that's 2 years. So there's we'll call it 2 years, but it's a year and 10 months. So there are 2 years there. And that sort of equates to what she's saying, yeah, that she was groomed for 2 years before her 18th birthday, and then she moved to LA. Well, that must have been in 1999 because that was her 18th birthday. So, what I can conclude from that is that there is the potential for her to have suffered some abuse of some kind during that time frame, right? However, the claim that Eliza was trafficked for 9 years total. You see, even that's a funny wording there, for 9 years total. So, like, if she was trafficked, like, for the 2 years that she's saying, right? No, sorry, she was. I haven't gotten into it yet, but like, so from 1999, actually, when she moved to LA, there's nothing that we can find out about her really between 1999 and 2002. So what I meant by the 2 years is not the 2 years grooming, but the 2 unverified years between 1999 when she moved to LA and 2002 when she appeared, or at least went for the filming of the TV show Blind Date. So that is now concrete evidence that something, it's concrete evidence that, one, she wasn't 15, but then 2, there is a time frame, a very, very limited time frame for the potential of being trafficked or abused or whatever, right? Whether they mean in this article Eliza was sex trafficked for 9 years total, whether they mean that they're taking that instance into account and some other instances that happened later on in her life, I don't know. But she wasn't trafficked for 9 years straight, and we can prove that now, that she wasn't trafficked for 9 years straight. Because apart from those 2 years between 1999 and 2002, we can actually track her movements. Now, from 2003 onwards is a bit sketchy as well. But it doesn't seem like there would have been much chance for her to have been trafficked during those years. From my research, and while I haven't got the concrete proof in front of me here, so we're going to take it as hearsay and rumour, she was apparently married to a guy in LA, or at least in California somewhere. This guy was in the military. They moved to Germany. She worked as a gym, like in a gym as the receptionist or whatever. Now that bit, it's almost like a little bit of folklore although I can prove that there is a relationship between Eliza and this guy, his surname is Siep. And incidentally, that's the name that comes up on all of her sort of Instagram and stuff like that. It's Eliza Siep. I can prove that, but I can't, like, on YouTube, obviously. The way that I could prove it would also give away identifiable information. And I don't want to dox anybody. I don't want to show you the process of what I did, because I can show you, but I can't blur it out. I'm not that advanced. I might have my little like, comment, and subscribe button. Which, by the way, if you don't mind, you know, like, comment, subscribe. That'd be great. Thanks. But anyway, snazzy, isn't it? Anyway, going back to this. Where was I? I'll start somewhere else. It doesn't matter. I've forgotten my thread now. But anyway, I just want to show you in this, right? Do excuse me. I am still suffering from a chest infection. Anyway, I want to show you a little bit of this. This is the blind date show. Now, it's a bit cringe for her, but the reason why I want to show you is because this is her when she's 21, and you need to see how young she is and what she looks like so that you can believe the rest of the photographs as we're going through the years.
Let's move on. Now, Eliza lives a rock and roll lifestyle. She says she's pretty exciting, but she still has problems when it comes to men.
So, keeping in mind, this is 2002. This is after the first bout of sex trafficking. If we're going to give her the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to keep saying that, right? Because I'm going from the side of what she has said is true, okay? Right now, I'm just trying to go from that side, so please bear with me. So this is just after, or some point after, her alleged her alleged first bout of trafficking.
I'm self-seeking, self-centered, and fear-based, and I have high expectations.
Self-centered, self-seeking, and fear-based. Is that what she said? I didn't quite get it.
As far as sex goes.
High expectations as far as sex goes.
Ask me, like, were you faking? Was that real? And I'm like, about the hair.
So sometimes guys say to her, was that good? Were you faking? And then she's like, oh God, that's a bit embarrassing. It's like, so obviously, you know, she needs to be, you know, done quite well. She needs to be well done in order to achieve, you know. And so, and now she's talking about a fucking hair.
It was black one, and it was blue and pink. I think it can be really sexy, and it just takes a certain type of guy to appreciate it.
Yeah, usually a simp or a cuck or something like that. It usually takes that kind of guy to appreciate loud, bright hair. But nevertheless, you can tell from that right from the get-go, she's always enjoyed hairstyle and that kind of stuff, and bright colours in her hair. This is something that's not new. But, I mean, compared to the photographs of her nowadays, you know, she's so young.
Be really sexy.
She looks like a completely different person almost.
And it just takes a certain...
And when we get into the My Chemical Romance days, you'll see even more how different she looks from that point to the next.
Type of guy to appreciate it.
Well, who better to appreciate...
So anyway, Michael Macara, he's the date, and he's actually the uploader of this video. And I got in touch with him because there was some contention about the date. People were saying that this episode aired in 2006, and unfortunately that was causing a lot of confusion, especially for people in the My Chemical Romance sort of fandom, because it almost seemed like Eliza was accusing like the band or someone involved with the band, of human trafficking. And we can say beyond any doubt now that the trafficking was nothing to do with My Chemical Romance or the Most Hated Crew. We can say beyond nary a doubt now, because I asked him personally, Michael, can you tell me what year this was, what season, what episode, please? And it took a couple of days for him to come back, and he said it was filmed in 2000 or 2001, and it was aired the following season, if I remember correctly. Well, I think it was 2002, because she was 21 on May the 21st, 2002. And so, anyway, he's the actual uploader of the video. He was the guy who went on the date. I'm going to take his word for it that it was around that time and nowhere near 2006. Okay? But if it is indeed filmed in 2000 or 2001, then that narrows down the potential for years of abuse to about 1 or 2. Okay? I'm just saying, right? She wasn't 15. It wasn't a whole 2 years, and the potential time frame for her actually being abused is sort of shrinking now. I said here to someone else who asked about narrowing it down a bit, I said on her bio card it says 21, so it's definitely between May 2002 and May 2003, because that's when she was 20. That was the year she was 21. And so I am absolutely certain about this, that it was 2002, released in 2003. Now, throughout the episode, right, I'm just going to try and scan to it. Hang on, it's only 8 minutes long. So if I put it on double speed, I'll get to it quicker, but I can't scan through it like that.
Kind of bring out the wild side in me.
Well, I've got good news for you, Mike, because nobody knows more about the wild side than Eliza. So let's brace ourselves and see where this day takes us, and them.
So what we're looking for right now are examples. Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Obsessed with hair, doesn't own any underwear. Okay, that's the first one.
My name's Eliza. Nice to meet you.
Oh, you ready?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I'm a singer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, what do you do?
I do,
She's a singer, she says there as well.
Oh, cool.
Stuff, yeah.
Nice.
That's relevant later on.
I'm from Illinois. Where are you from?
Virginia.
Really?
Oh, boy, yeah.
So what do you do like when you're not working?
What do I do? I hang out with friends, go to the pool, go to the gym. So where do you spend most of your time?
It all depends.
Eliza has a hard time opening up to people. Where does she spend her time? Well, I guess we'll probably find out a little bit later where she spends her time.
10 hours is a long time to spend with somebody that you don't know. No, it's just like a long day, especially for a girl that's not used to like doing much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
Like,
been a long day. She uses that excuse an awful lot through all the interviews that I've seen. Whenever anybody asks her a difficult question that she doesn't want to answer, it's been a long day.
it's not that bad.
I hope not. You guys know we make meals for like 1,200 people. And our whole goal is to make nutritious meals so that, we can totally And here's an apron for each one of you.
Thank you.
And it's imperative that your hair's covered, so you guys went through the orientation. No. Actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, you gotta cover your hair.
Eliza complains a lot apparently through this
Can't
whole
believe that they
thing.
wear hat. That's a major no.
Why, your hair?
Yeah, you just don't do that. I smell like jalapeno. My hair's gonna be flat.
All right.
Yeah.
So you like pretty crazy here?
Me?
Yeah.
Probably clinically insane. But,
Probably clinically insane, she says.
crazy, like wild crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to the bathroom so I can take this thing off.
But she's wild crazy.
Thanks for the hat. No!
Seem concerned about your hair.
I'm very concerned about it. I love hair. Well, my hair. For the most part, I can be pretty
So she loves hair as well, which is relevant later.
I'm serious. If you get me in my element, I'm fine.
What's your element? We can probably get there. Kimberly is my name.
Kimberly, my name's Eliza.
Pleasure meeting you. And so just a few warm-ups over here. So come on over, kids. Make sure
Oh, I can't do it.
Come back. I gotta go on the bar.
I could just cut myself.
Where is it?
Right here.
I know, where'd you get hurt?
That's okay, I'm fine. It's like a little scratchy. It's okay. Just minor bleeding.
Just gotta get a good chick while you're just sitting there.
She seems like a bit of an attention seeker in this.
Stand up, turn around like this is easier.
This is really hard. I don't know why you subject me to doing this. Okay.
Wasn't my idea.
Oh, this is brutal. Just be brutal.
Watch out. One more. Nah.
Yeah, thanks.
Should have ran, mate.
Oh, you totally failed.
Oh, you did very well.
Yeah. Brutal.
So what do you find to be your best trait?
My best trait?
Yeah.
My best trait, like, thing I do the best.
Yeah.
I don't know. How about you?
If I set a goal, I'm pretty good at going out and accomplishing the goal. What do you usually look for?
In a guy? I like guys that are emotionally available because then I don't have to get intense. Because if I sat on myself, if I actually fell in love, like a guy that actually loved me as much as I love him, it would be really freaked out. No?
If she found, this is going to be relevant later as well, if she found love with someone, she'd get freaked out.
So you're preparing yourself for rejection almost.
She's
So you're feeling-
preparing herself for
irritable,
rejection.
restless, incontent, slightly annoyed. Okay, now it's your turn.
It's definitely been interesting.
Pretty sure there was another instance. Okay, so there's this one here where she's complaining about having to go on a bull, a mechanical bull. Right, I'm just going to bring the playback speed to normal quickly. Oh yeah, it's on the end here when she, on the ball. So look, you see they did that there, right? Obviously a skirt's a bit short. They didn't want to flash her butt or anything like that. But that's another time that they've alluded to not having any knickers on, right? So look, I'm just pointing this out. Like, I don't think it really matters in terms of you know, her lies or anything like that. But I'm trying to get all of the information out I possibly can.
Oh, not good. Looks like Mike was fighting a losing battle right from the start. And when we come back, Eliza will tell us exactly why this date went into the dumpster, so stick around. Welcome back to Blind Date. Now, before the break, Mike and Eliza went for a date in the bizarro world. They served food to the homeless, worked out a little, and rode a bull. But mostly, Eliza complained, and Mike suffered.
No. No, I don't think we hit it off at all.
I really would have to compare this date with extracting your own tooth.
I'm looking for a guy that's tall, skinny, pale, lots of tattoos, and is a rock star.
I basically just tried to zone out the pain.
I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him that he had to put up with me.
Once we got to the bar, I tried to have a good time.
I was happy that he was talking to another girl at the bar because she was very pretty.
I don't think she should be expecting calls from me.
No, I'm not going to see Michael again unless I run into him somewhere and that's not very likely.
My guess is that if Eliza ever runs into Mike again, Mike will run. Stay put, there's more Blind Date coming up.
Well, there you go. That's the whole video in its entirety. We've just spent 4 minutes looking at that, roughly. Now, I couldn't see it again. I didn't catch it, but when I went over the video the first couple of times, I'm pretty sure that there was like 3 instances where they allude to her not wearing any knickers during that date. Why would you go on blind date with no knickers on? I mean, genuinely, I don't get that. It's almost, I don't know. Look, it's just, you know, a bit mind-boggling, that's all. Why would you do that? So where are we going from here? Right, so we can say for definite that between like the age of 16, when she first went to that Chicago Vans Warped Tour concert, when she drove down there illegally, most likely if one of her friends weren't over 21, we can say that between the years of, let's say, about 2001 to 2002, she was filming this blind date episode. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say that there is like a 3-year period that can't be confirmed where she has been abused. Right? Now, we're going to get into, I think we'll go to Zuby's stream now. Because it's this, the way that she's framing all of her abuse is very disturbing, and we'll get into it now. So listen to what Zuby is asking, the right questions, right? And he's trying not to be confrontational, you know, and he does very well at trying to get the information out of her. So let's just bear with him a second. Now we're going to take a little bit of time on this, about 10 minutes on this video, and it's going to be a frame every pause sort of thing. A pause every frame, sorry.
Awesome. And before we get into stuff in detail, when you say the term human trafficking, what exactly is meant by that? Because that's a term and a phrase that people hear, but it doesn't always translate directly, I don't think, especially when you talk about digital human trafficking and things like that.
Great question. I'm glad you asked, because sometimes I put the cart before the horse and start talking like everybody knows everything that I know. Human trafficking means force, fraud, or coercion for the sale of labor or sex.
Okay. You understand that? That is the definition of human trafficking. Okay? That is the definition of human trafficking. So I don't understand anything that comes after this, why she's counting a lot of it as human trafficking, because it's just not.
The UN definition includes the black market sale of human organs. In the United States, it's considered a different crime, the black market sale of human organs. Human trafficking also includes child soldiers, child begging. Human trafficking in the digital space would be more like sexual exploitation in the digital space, which would include child sexual abuse material. Some folks call it child porn, but child sexual abuse material, child sexual exploitation material. Illegal adoption would also be included as well. So it is the most.
Right, so let's go over what she's just said there. Yeah. Adoption or illegal adoption, that can be considered trafficking. CP and like online CP, that could be classed as trafficking. Totally agree. Well, I mean, all of the things that she described there are crimes in themselves already, and even if there was no terminology like trafficking, they would still all be crimes in themselves.
It's been pretty incredible. I'm grateful.
That's awesome. And before we get into stuff in detail, when you say the term
just
human
going over it
trafficking, what
again.
exactly is meant by that? Because that's a term and a phrase that people hear, but it doesn't always translate directly, I don't think, especially when you talk about digital human trafficking and things like that.
Great question. I'm glad you asked, because sometimes I put the cart before the horse and start talking like
Yeah, all right,
everybody knows everything that I know. Human trafficking means force, fraud, or coercion for the sale of labor or sex. The UN definition includes the black market sale of human organs. In the United States,
human organs. Okay, yeah, you can traffic organs.
it's considered a different crime, the black market sale of human organs.
Or at least you can't. What I mean is, you're not allowed to traffic organs. That's considered trafficking.
Human trafficking also includes child soldiers,
Child soldiers. Completely agree. That could be considered human trafficking.
Human trafficking in the digital space would be more like sexual exploitation in the digital space, which would include child sexual abuse material. Some folks call it child porn, but child sexual abuse material, child sexual exploitation material. Illegal adoption would also be included as well.
Okay.
So it is the most broad and nuanced crime.
That is pretty broad, right? But it isn't any of the things that you're going to claim after this, okay?
I think sometimes where one of my faults is that I bounce around and can be talking about any aspect of the crime at any particular time. And I expect folks to be able to keep up. And sometimes myself, I have to reel it back a little bit and say, oh yeah, like folks aren't as accustomed to this crime.
When she says accustomed to this crime, what she means is people aren't yet sort of like going along with my interpretation of the word trafficking. Whenever I try to explain this to people, I often go ahead of myself, because like people don't understand that what I'm saying is trafficking, and they often get confused. They often like go, huh? What the fuck are you talking about? Which is precisely what Azubi kind of does, but he does it quite tactfully.
I think it's really important to talk about different aspects of the crime, because folks don't understand. And I also think it's important to talk about different aspects of the crime, because it helps survivors self-identify, and then they're more willing and equipped to step forward.
Okay, and that's a really important and scary thing to think about, right? What she's saying there is it gives potential survivors or victims the courage to self-identify and say, I'm in trafficking and abuse, right? That is a scary thought, because what she's about to say could be considered trafficking. If you're telling people that these certain things are trafficking, you are purposefully poisoning their mind, and you are purposefully obscuring the true meaning of trafficking. That not only makes it difficult to support survivors, that makes it almost nigh on impossible to identify true victims of human trafficking, and you're going to get a glut of people who aren't being trafficked and that their circumstances are just shit. And we'll get into it now.
And self-identify and ask for help.
I get that. So when you say human trafficking, we're talking about a pretty broad range of different things, because I think when people hear the term, they think of like a very physical, they kind of just think of the purely physical aspect, you know, I don't know, whether that's capturing people and sort of taking them over a border to sell them or something like that. But actually it's a much broader scope than that, from what I understand.
Yeah, it can look different depending on the situation, and there are no two survivor stories that are the same. I think that a large portion of the misunderstanding of the crime lays on the shoulders of the corporate press in Hollywood. They only show the sensationalized versions of the crime.
I don't really know what she means by that, because what she's saying is that they only report on the true meaning of the crime. Okay, what she wants them to report on are her interpretations of the crime.
But sort of a little bit more lately, I've seen more realistic interpretations of the crime, and for that I'm really happy. But when I
more realistic interpretations of the crime, no, not more realistic, right? Less realistic.
Say that it's the fault of the corporate press. You know, I'll have a story that I want to post that is a legitimate story here in the United States from a corporate media outlet, and the imagery used will be that of a white girl with ropes around their wrists. Statistically speaking, this
like you. Or something like a white girl.
Does not match what we're seeing, and it actually usually typically doesn't match the story that they're talking about. So they just go to search images that go with human trafficking, and they'll post that image. But what that does is sort of perpetuate this narrative that it's always a kidnapping situation, that it's always a sort of slavery situation in the way where you would see chains. You think of someone like chained up in a basement. That's not statistically what we see in the United States. What we see more statistically.
Yes, that is what human trafficking is. That is sex slavery. You're not allowed to leave. Yeah, you if you try to leave or if you complain, your abusers will fucking beat you. Okay, that's what trafficking is. Yeah, it's not just like, oh please babe, please stay. I don't want you to go. I'll have no money if you go.
Is the abuser, the trafficker, grooming an individual and selling them a dream, and having a relationship, building trauma bonds with the victim, and sort of a Stockholm syndrome.
So, grooming, trauma bonds, Stockholm syndrome, selling a dream. This is starting to sound familiar now, isn't it? Oh, dearie me, those things are starting to sound a bit familiar now.
And the survivor or victim, while they're being trafficked, actually has the opportunity to walk free. So, for instance, in my case, I at no point did not have a cell phone or the ability to walk into a police station.
Then you weren't trafficked. Okay. You weren't trafficked.
I had that strong of a trauma bond with my former abuser that I did not want to leave, nor did I self-identify as being a victim of human trafficking.
That's because you weren't a victim of human trafficking. You had a shitty boyfriend, okay? It was a shitty relationship that you were in. One that you and he built together over 2 years, when you were 16 to when you were 18, over text or over phone and over letters. You formed this relationship, yeah, and you moved to LA together in the hope of dreams and stardom, just like lots of other young people do. They find love at an early age, and then have you never heard the song Fast Car by Tracy Chapman? Are you saying that that's about someone who was trafficked? Yeah? The guy's saying, you know, we need to get away from here, you know, we need to selling her a dream, yeah, of getting out of this place and going to somewhere better. Yeah? It's a tale as old as fucking time. But apparently he groomed you. Now, look, right, I have to say at this point, it is considered grooming if the photographer is sort of like, I think it's like the Romeo and Juliet laws or something like that. They give you a sort of like a year's grace or 2 years grace, either way of the age, I think it is. Something like that. But anything over that, you're fucked. But basically, if like she's 16, yeah, this guy's 19, let's say, unfortunately, that comes under grooming. So that was a crime in itself. She is actually the victim of a crime if some guy, whether it was her boyfriend or not, some guy was... If they, we haven't seen the letters, we haven't heard the phone calls, we don't know what was said, but if he was, you know, over like trying to sexualize her and, you know, bring her into that space. Oh, what do you think of drugs? What do you think of? Oh, I think about you all the night when I masturbate. You know, just that's grooming. That is grooming. You know, objectively, we can say that is grooming. So, like I've said, there is the potential for her to have been groomed and abused, right? But nowhere in this story am I getting a whiff of trafficking. Now, this article over here, it says when she got to LA, her visit wasn't exactly what she expected it to be. It turned out to be that the photographer she had met was actually a recruiter for a human trafficking ring. So what you're telling me, yeah, is that this guy, this photographer that you met, he had connections with this ring in LA, and for 2 years he had this whole intention of just getting you to move to LA with him, yeah, for a photo shoot. I mean, where did he disappear to? I don't know. Look, so what you're trying to say is this guy, he wasn't in a relationship with you. Yeah, that's what you're trying to say? He wasn't in a relationship with you, but he was like your friend or something. And he, I don't know, what, did you meet up with him over those 2 years of grooming? Or, you know, you need to add a little bit more context here, I'm afraid, Eliza, because this ain't making sense, okay? It sounds to me like you want people to believe that this guy was a predator, that he met you at a Vans Warped Tour concert, and then from that moment on, it was a mission to get this girl to LA because I'm gonna sell her into sex slavery. But when you listen to this podcast here, that's not what it seems like at all.
So, and I was an adult in that particular case. So I think that when you're dealing with children, it's even more complex. And when you talk about those trauma bonds with abusers, I think, I don't know, I really started noticing.
Trauma bonds with abusers. What that means is you've got a shitty boyfriend, you're halfway around the world, yeah? You've moved to LA, so far from your home, you know, it's very difficult to sort of get back. You move out of your boyfriend. Let's say your boyfriend starts being an asshole, yeah? And you're thinking to yourself, shit, I'm in a bit of a shit situation here. He is being an asshole, but I've got nowhere to go. It's like, you know, I found myself between a rock and a hard place, and I can't leave him because I've got no money, and I've got no this, I've got no way of supporting myself, I've got no room or, you know, to sleep in or anything like that. So you stick around. I've been in bad relationships too where I wanted to leave, but it wasn't the right time for me to leave because, and so I literally had to sit there and kind of take the abuse or, you know, have the fights, those sorts of things, you know, the rows and all that kind of stuff. So Anyway, we'll crack on with this interview because we've got
noticing a
about
lot of these
15
gaps
minutes to
in
get through.
education, prevention, and awareness, which I truly think is the key to education, prevention, awareness, strong communities, a support system, strong families are truly how we will end this crime or make a serious dent.
I'm curious with what you just said there. Where is the delineation between a bad or perhaps somewhat abusive relationship and actual criminal activity?
Good question, Zuby.
Well, there are all different types of abuse. So do you mean like mental abuse? Because a lot of times human trafficking victims will self-identify first as domestic violence victims, as domestic violence survivors.
Domestic violence is not trafficking.
Or sexual assault survivors. So
sexual assault is a crime unrelated to trafficking that is encapsulated under legislation of its own. Okay? Sexual abuse can be a part of trafficking, but it is not. It does the two can exist without the other, I guess.
Oftentimes, it takes someone explaining the.
No, what I mean is, being being a victim of sexual abuse can survive completely independently of trafficking, and I guess that trafficking can't survive without sexual abuse.
Crime? Are you saying like what makes it human trafficking?
So, say for example, there's a situation where violence itself is not used, and perhaps it's more coercive and manipulative. Where is the line between just, say, I don't know, a messed up relationship and actual human trafficking?
So that's a deep question, Zuby.
That's a deep question, Zuby. Yes, it is a deep question. Fucking answer it.
People usually don't ask questions that deep. I love it.
That's why it's called Real Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why she's stalling, because she hasn't got a fucking answer. You haven't got an answer, you stupid bitch.
I love it. So coercion for some type. Okay, I forgot to add one more thing into the definition. By law, anyone engaging in commercial sex under the age of 18 in the United States is also considered a victim survivor of human trafficking. So no one under the age.
Okay, so what you've done is you've misdirected again. Yeah, you've misdirected by turning around and saying people under the age of 18, that's classed as, whatever, that's paedophilia as far as I'm concerned. It's sexual abuse, statutory rape, etc. Okay, you're not allowed to be a prostitute in the United States or England or anywhere like that. Anywhere in the Western world, I think it's outlawed to be a prostitute anyway. But having sex with a minor is a completely different subject all on its own. Okay, child prostitution, I guess that is trafficking, right? So child prostitution is trafficking because there's no way that they are directly benefiting off of that. So that in itself is a crime. We know that. But what we're talking about is you being trafficked.
The age of 18 in the United States can engage in commercial sex.
Quick question. Sorry to jump in on that. What if they're doing that supposedly on their own accord and no one else is involved in that, or does that not matter?
Under the age of 18, under all circumstances.
Just all circumstances. Okay.
Correct, because the idea there is that children cannot consent.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
I'm just trying to understand the scope.
So it's got nothing to do with.
It's really broad. Children cannot consent.
The question
and then
that he
once you turn 18, then you have different definitions for those engaging in survival sex, and those engaging in willing.
Survival sex. Oh, that's one that pisses me off. That is the fact that she keeps going on about survival sex. We'll get into that in a bit.
Adult sex work or willing adult entertainment. So there's under the age of 18, it's always considered a victim of human trafficking under law.
Even if that way, okay, sorry, I'm not trying to stick on this point. I'm just trying to get clear here, because in the U.S. the age of consent it's not over 18 in every state, is it?
Yeah. Okay. The age of consent is 18, but the age of consent is 18. But in certain states, you can marry under the age of 18 to an adult.
Yeah, this is why I'm trying to get my head around how they're defining these terms, because it seems a little gray and confusing to me.
Well, you can marry a child in certain states, but a child cannot engage in. So, I mean, right now, the way that the law is written is you cannot sell sex anyway. That's already a crime, in the United States, period. So selling sex already in the United States is considered a crime. I personally have no opinion on what willing adults do, but I'm not the law, so I'm just talking about the law. But you can marry a child in some states, not all, under the age of 18.
Okay, that's okay. So in terms of this.
So just to point out here, she's completely misdirected and didn't answer his question at all. He was asking for the delineation point. She stalled and she was like, "Oh, that's a very good question. Oh, yeah, you can't answer it." We're going to get deeper into why she can't answer in a minute, a little bit later on.
Problem. No, that's all right. No, it just seems like the laws and definitions are kind of clashing to me. So that's why I'm just trying to gain some clarity on this. But in terms of the scope and scale of the problem, what are we talking about here in a country like the USA or another Western country? What is the scope and nature of this issue?
The scope and the nature of the issue is absolutely massive. It's completely out of control. We're looking at a war on drugs 2.0. Projections, they talk numbers. It's going to be really difficult always to define numbers, but 40.3 million globally is the estimated projection of what we're looking at, those that are trapped in modern day slavery. In the United States, it looks a little different.
Maybe those figures would be different if you weren't classifying all of these other crimes under human trafficking. You see, because a lot of what you've already said are crimes within themselves. Child sexual exploitation, child prostitution, prostitution in itself, those are all already crimes.
Than it will in Nigeria and other countries. But I think regardless of what it looks like in one country, we are looking at a human rights violation. So it's in the United States, especially when you impose government lockdowns and folks can't work, or my cause and my issue is like the most important issue in the entire world. But I feel that it should be on the tip of everyone's tongues because it is indeed modern day slavery. And with certain populations there,
I see both a pro and a con in this in terms of the wider discussion, but versus to me, even that's a different thing to, I don't know, say like some type of illegal pornography, which is also different to a relationship where someone has the ability to leave, but perhaps they're bonded to the person that cannot really being held in captivity realistically, but they're in some kind of weird, coercive, abusive relationship. To me, these all sound like quite different things. So I sometimes wonder if having them all under this banner of modern day slavery and or human trafficking is perhaps just too broad. I think when things are too broad, it becomes hard for people to really understand and define what's going on.
I agree with you 100%. And I've been a strong advocate for breaking up the crimes. I think that it is too broad. I think that it's too difficult for folks to understand. And the main goal is to get as many people out of exploitative situations as possible. Mm-hmm. So if folks cannot self-identify because it's too...
Well, she's contradicting herself there. She's saying that it's too broad and she's fighting back against how broad it is, but she wants to encapsulate all these things underneath the umbrella of trafficking.
Confusing, then how can we make progress? So I have many times advocated for to break up at least the definition of the crime or how it's seen in but it's really hard to make any type of progress with this. There's a lot of red tape, and I'll be honest, because of the money involved in this crime, it behooves on those that are trading in humans or exploiting others to keep it confusing, to keep it under wraps, to keep it quiet.
It's not about that. It's about having clear, defined law. Okay, we have clear, defined law that already explains what these crimes are, and the ones that are not considered crimes are not crimes. It's just shit circumstances.
They don't want you, predators do not want you to understand this crime. It's really difficult to do because it's like the more I get involved in these things, the more I'm like, holy Toledo, it's going to be a long time before we can make progress. And then with all the chaos going on in the world,
it's just moving.
And when I talk about grooming, this confuses people a little bit. What I mean grooming is a predator trafficker will identify vulnerabilities in a potential victim and spend the time learning how to exploit those vulnerabilities for their use. And a lot of times Facebook and other social media platforms play a large role in this because folks post, especially the youth, will post, oh, I hate my parents. I want to dye my hair green. Oh, I'm not happy. I want to leave my school. The predator will watch for that, look for that, pick up on that, and start to communicate with the child or children. And that's why it's difficult for survivors to step forward. Labor trafficking is going to be a little bit different. Exploitation mean and what?
Yeah, I say this because I think, unfortunately, in the modern day time we live in, even terms like abuse and exploitation get abused and exploited. Right.
I totally agree with you. And
yeah, that's precisely what she's doing right now, Zub. She's exploiting it.
I never would want someone to. Okay, is there an exchange for money, goods? I always say, if you're working and you don't get to keep the money, that's pretty much answers it right there. But human trafficking can have an exchange of goods or other services of value. So there doesn't need to be an exchange of money to be considered.
If you are being forced to work for little or no compensation, then you are a slave. You are not necessarily a survivor of human trafficking. You are a survivor, let's say, or a victim of slavery. Okay? You could be a slave in your own fucking home. That doesn't mean that you were trafficked. The whole word trafficked comes from the movement. Okay? You are moving a person away from their home, and you are forcing them to do work or have sex so that you can profit and not them. That is what it is. That is the definition of trafficking. You falling in love with some bloke at a Vans Warped Tour concert over 2 years and then moving to LA. And then when you get to LA, yeah, you start taking drugs and you have a couple of beers, and then all of a sudden all your money's run out, and then your boyfriend turns around to you and says, oh, do you fancy, selling your poontang so that we can fucking eat today? I mean, that's shit. He obviously doesn't respect you. I'm not denying that. That's a shit person right there. Someone to suggest to their girlfriend, sell you poontang so we can fucking eat today, when they could just give up the drugs. And that's a codependent relationship there. They got hooked on drugs, and I'll guarantee you they're on fucking drugs together. It's not just him going, here, have some more drugs, Come on, mate, here you go. She's ready now. $500. That's not what was going on. That is not what was going on, and I'm fucking sick to death of people enabling you to make that kind of assertion. Because all the things that you're saying right now, they don't add up to human trafficking, okay? You moved to LA with a boy or a bloke that you met over a couple of years, yeah? You built a relationship with this person, you moved to LA, and you realised after a few days that things weren't going as well as you'd hoped. And that was the start of your career in prostitution. Okay? It's as clear as the fucking nose on your face. That is what happened. That is what, in my opinion, happened. There ain't no doubt in my mind that you, whether through, fucking, I don't know, whether he was like, oh, go on, babe, please, just do it until you're finally cracked, right? I'm not saying that it's an ideal situation, and I'm not saying that it's something that you should have gone through. You were young and naive, and you had a shit relationship. You didn't know any better. You were just trying to be cool, and you got hooked on drugs, and now you're selling your body. And that continued over a couple of years, seemingly until some point you took an overdose. And then I believe all this stuff very well might have happened. Like she says, she overdosed, was left for dead, and ended up in Cedars-Sinai Hospital. She went home, and when she says she went home, I'm assuming she means back to Cordova, Illinois, where her family farm is. She got clean and all that happened, right? I kind of believe that happened. I believe she was hooked on drugs. I believe she had an overdose. I believe that she went back home and never spoke about what happened. Never really spoke about what happened over in LA. I can believe that happened, but what I'm having trouble believing is that what you went through was actual human trafficking. Because why didn't he move there sooner? Yeah. If wasn't he trafficking hundreds of other girls as well if he was a recruiter for a human trafficking ring. Yeah? No, it wasn't a case of... You see, what that implies is that he groomed you to purposefully draw you away from your home and install you into this, like, a situation where you had to have sex, where actually you were sold to another person for the measly sum of $500. Yeah, that's what you're implying with all of that, and that isn't how it happened, Eliza. I can see from my own life experiences, what I've experienced in my life, I can see right through that story. Okay, I know precisely what happened. It's fair to say that if the guy was an older person and he was contacting you through letter and post and he was sexualizing you, yes, that is grooming. No doubt about it. You were under 18. That could be considered grooming. But we don't even know who this person is. You say it was a photographer. Yeah, that's it. The guy could have been 18. Yeah. The guy could have been 18 and you were 16. There's like a 2-year difference. You're kids. You are roughly the same age. That's why they have the Romeo and Juliet laws, because you could be within that age range, like high school kids. You know what I mean? But once you're over that age, yeah, once you're past that, that's when it becomes creepy. Yeah? It's like a 38-year-old shouldn't be talking to a fucking 16-year-old. That's just creepy. Yeah? We can all agree. But like a 20-year-old talking to a 16-year-old, that's not so creepy because the age gap has now shrunk a bit. Something I want to point out is in America, the age of consent is 18. In the UK, the age of consent is 16. So Prince Andrew, for example, look, I'm not defending the guy, he was a perv, but Prince Andrew, if the girl he slept with, who was 17, if it was in the UK, nothing wrong would have been done. But because it was in the United States, she was underage. And so he can be penalised for that. So there is, like, even depending on what country you're in, there is a fine line between when the age of consent is. However, we do have clear-cut, defined laws that everyone can get behind to say that is the age that you are now allowed to make the decisions for yourself. You can sleep with whoever you want to, okay? So what it sounds like to me is that you met some nice guy at this Vans Warped Tour, you hit it off, he was a photographer, he was around your age maybe he was like older, but you haven't been specific and you need to be. I'm afraid now you need to be specific about this because it's called too many things into question. Your whole narrative, your whole background, the fact of you going, now you found Jesus apparently. Are you out of your fucking mind, girl? You found Jesus and you want to stop fucking exploitation by cutting out prostitutes. Girl, you were a prostitute and you were a dancer in a strip club. It's like you're on record saying like that you worked in a strip club. You haven't said explicitly that you were a prostitute. Even in that interview that people have been going around showing where that one of your ex-friends or whatever, she says, well, I didn't use that word originally. I said prostitute. And you're like, well, we didn't have a word for it back then. We didn't have the words for it. It's like, yeah, you did. It's called prostitution. It wasn't human trafficking because you were free to leave that profession at any point you wanted. You were free to run away and do whatever it was that you wanted after that. You weren't stuck there. Your pimp wasn't saying, bitch, you better get back to work or I'm going to smack your ass. It's like you were free to go and do another job. in another interview, she's talking about how it's human trafficking. Like maybe you're in a tight situation and you found yourself having to work in a strip club or something like that. You know, she even says, I actually wanted to work as a cocktail waitress in a gentleman's club. Why does someone who advocates against the sex industry come from a background of the sex industry? It just seems a little bit hypocritical. It's like, you know, reformed smokers. They are the fucking worst. They've spent their whole lives puffing on cigarettes, yeah? And then as soon as they give up, they start preaching to other smokers about how they should stop, how it's bad for you. It's like, shut the fuck up. You were smoking for 20 years before you gave up. Don't give me any clout. Anyway, she was like doing sex work, a sexual adult entertainment, whatever the fuck she calls it, for years and years and years. And now she wants to come out and spoil everyone else's fun. No, you can fuck off trying to encapsulate all of this stuff under the umbrella of human trafficking. No, you can fuck off. You're a grifter. Now, what I'm concerned about more than anything is her story to survival. Yeah, and who it was that filled her head up with all of this.
There's human trafficking under the United States law. But I always say, if you're working and you're not getting to keep the money, that's pretty much it. You know, if people have you in debt bondage or some other type of... So what that would look like is if you and I started dating and you and I got into a financial situation where you were like, hey, just go sell your, just go, hey, look, we need to feed ourselves today. And I think if you went and sold sex, we could at least feed ourselves today.
Sound familiar? Sound familiar? She was sold into sex slavery by the photographer for $500. Okay? She's just said there what it would look like is if you and I were dating and we were short on food this month and you just suggested to me, oh, go on, sell your poontang. That's what happened to her. That's what happened to her. I'm not saying that it's a good situation. I'm not saying that is good at all. That's horrible. I would hate my kid to ever find themselves in that situation where they felt like they couldn't call me up and say, Dad, we're on our arse. I've got nothing to eat. Could you wire me some money, please? I would be beside myself if my daughter ever thought that they couldn't come to me for help. That they felt like they had to sell their body in order to make ends meet. That breaks my heart. And even for her, if it's true that that's what happened, yeah, I feel bad for her, because no one should have to go through that. You shouldn't have to feel like you're selling your body just to make ends meet. You shouldn't have to feel like that. You should have some other way of making money. You should have a real skill set at something that you're really good at. But I'm afraid it doesn't really sound like you've got much going for you apart from your body, maybe your hairstyling, that sort of thing. But now you're on this survivor grift, and it seems to be working out for you so far, but it's based on fallacies, love. I'm sorry, the truth, the objective truth, it's right here in front of us. You can't deny it anymore.
But the difficulty is, if I come home from exchanging that activity and I give you the money and I don't get to keep any, or if I don't even get to keep a large portion of it, that's where it could turn into an...
Or I don't even get to keep a large portion of it. So if you get some money out of it, yeah, and the rest has to go on fucking paying for rent and paying for food and paying for the internet bills, you know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck do you want? I've been in relationships like that. Not necessarily where she's gone out and... But, me, for example, going out to work, coming home, yeah, giving the money to the household, Yeah, and me only having a small portion of that. That's called fucking life. Okay. It's not like your boyfriend's going, oh, give us that 500 quid. There you go. There's a tenner. That money was used for you and this photographer boyfriend of yours to live on. He obviously didn't mind that he was being cucked on a nightly basis because it was bringing in the dough. I'm not saying it's a perfect situation. I'm not saying it's like ideal, but you weren't trafficked. You went to LA with a bloke you met that you spoke to over 2 years, right? And you moved there together on the idea of a dream and making it big in LA. And when you got there, it turned out that he was an asshole. He was a druggie. You got hooked on drugs and then you ended up with no money, okay? And don't fucking lie, it didn't happen over 3 days, okay? You don't get hooked on drugs like that over 3 days, okay? But it's this simple. This is what happened, in my opinion, from what I can see from you telling your story and what you think other traffickers are supposed to be encapsulated under, yeah? I can see exactly the story playing out in front of me now between the years of 1997 and the years of at least 2001 to 2002. You were in a shitty relationship where you found yourself selling your ass in order to make ends meet because you were with an asshole boyfriend who was hooked on drugs and you were also hooked on drugs. He didn't steal you away from your home and sold you into a sex ring, you fucking liar. That's a lie. That's a blatant lie. It's an over-exaggeration of what you went through, and it flies right in the face of all the real victims that are actually going through real fucking trafficking, where they aren't free to leave, where they don't have a mobile phone, where they can't go and see friends. They just have to lie there on a fucking bed all day, miles away from their parents, miles away from their fucking home, scared, alone, no hope for them. That's what fucking trafficking is, you fucking grifter. That's what trafficking is. How dare you even compare what you went through to that, you fucking lying grifter. How dare you? How anyone is giving you a platform now, I cannot understand. Now, the reason why I keep going on about prostitution and all this, and this is what you fucking did, is because of the Daily Beast report that came out today, yeah? They've had this person come forward. I don't know. I've got the clip here, right? Wenzel. Around 2016, this Wenzel person claims that Bleu asked her to join her as an escort, promising that Wenzel could make $500. That's a number. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Yeah. In a night, an offer that stunned Wenzel and her husband. Okay. She was absolutely loving it, Wenzel said. She was bragging about it, saying she was making so much money. Bleu later suggested that sex workers with a pimp might qualify as trafficking victims, though Wenzel said she didn't meet any pimp or trafficker when she socialized with Bleu, be it an unnamed high-profile athlete or otherwise. She's a very powerful, very smart, intelligent woman. I will not discredit her for that. Wenzel said she knows exactly what she's doing. Yes, you fucking do, don't you? You grifting bitch. You know precisely what you're doing. You're blurring the lines between what is true and what is not. You are trying to minimize your own fucking poor life choices so that you don't have to take accountability for your life, and you're teaching others that that is how to behave. You're teaching others that that is what trafficking is so that they can self-identify. You are dangerous, woman. You are absolutely dangerous. And it looks like here that you were doing precisely what fucking Ghislaine Maxwell's doing, or was doing. You were the recruiter. In 2016, you were the recruiter. You were bringing people in. You fucking destroyed, woman. How anyone's going to give you a platform after this, I don't know. Now, we've also seen by now probably the video that was released the other day that had Cliff. Oh, I can't think of his fucking name now. Anyway, there's the three of them. She's on the right, and they're talking about like blurring the lines between, you know, whether a minor can consent to sex or not. And then she's saying that the whole community should get together to decide whether or not this person is available for sex, or, you know, like mentally available for sex. And it's like, okay, look, I've been 13 years old. I've been like in those puppy love relationships, that sort of thing. And you start learning about yourself, you start learning about sex, and like, you know, I never had sex until I was 16 because that's what the legal age is over here in the UK. But I didn't have sex until I was 16. But before that, I still had girlfriends, and although we weren't doing like, we weren't having sex, like, or, you know, we'd still be close, we'd still be hugging, we'd still be kissing, we'd still be sort of like dry humping, those sorts of things, you know. It's the whole thing, second, third base, you know, first, second, third base in America, you know. Look, American Pie is built on that whole fucking... Anyway, my point being, this isn't anything new, this isn't anything contentious, that kids sometimes end up having sex with one another. And what she's talking about is like if an adult wants, or if a child wants to have sex with an adult. No. Okay? It's clear cut in law. You cannot have sex with a child, and the law defines in different countries what the age of consent is. What classes as a child, what does not. That is something that we can all come together and agree on. Imagine a situation where I've fallen in love with some person and they're like, you know, I guess, you know, you've started, and it's weird because they're older and stuff, and you've started this weird fucking relationship. You've got to then go to your community to say, can I have sex with this person? That's not how sex works. Oh, I'll schedule it for Friday, shall I? It's usually a product of hormones and being close to one another, and, you know, the sexual tension builds up, and etc. So that's why we have clear-cut laws. Because you can't have an adult being close to a child, so that kind of thing can build. That kind of thing is not allowed to build. You're not allowed to get close enough to someone so that you can hug them and start touching them inappropriately and getting those hormones flowing, etc. 18 in the United States, 16 in the United Kingdom. And it's usually in sort of like, you know, comparison with the school leaving age. Once you've left high school, that's it. You can have sex legally. Anyway, my point is, because I have gone off on a bit of a rant, she's obviously been doing this for some time, right? 9 years in total? Don't think so. I don't even think it's a single year that you've been trafficked. I don't believe it at all. I mean, I'm sitting here now, and I'm trying to just wrestle with a couple of other things, like, you know, to say, is she telling the truth? Look, like I said, I'm willing to concede that there is like a 3-year gap where you went through a really shitty relationship, and you felt like that you couldn't escape. I bet that that happened to you. But no, under no way at all did this guy groom you like a predator in order to snatch you away from your home, in order to sell you into sex slavery, into a sex ring, like a trafficking ring in LA. That did not happen. That did not happen. Let's just be clear about it. And anyone who's, enabling that story, it's just not true. Look, you can. It's almost verifiably false at this point, given the things that she said about what she thinks about what trafficking is, yeah, and like just putting it all together with what she said about what her backstory is, the fact that she lied about going when she was 15. She wasn't 15, she was 16, okay? That had already started. I mean, I already said it's still a crime if the guy was an adult and he was sending her inappropriate messages and phone calls. That's still illegal. You're not allowed to do that. But it's like she was saying, and the other thing is, like, she was, you remember when we were just watching and she was talking about how in some states it's okay for like an adult to marry a child as long as you're like both within a certain age. That's what tells me that this photographer was roughly her age, within a 2 to 3 year age range. But what it turns out is that he was this fucking 18, 19-year-old human trafficking ring fucking recruiter, like, in Taken, where it's that young guy and he's pretending to like him and that sort of thing, and then he just shoves him into a fucking car or whatever, follows him home or whatever the fuck it is. That's not what this is. You formed a relationship with some guy and you moved to LA because you wanted to follow a dream. And then when you got there, the grass wasn't greener on the other side. Okay? You found yourself in a really shitty situation with a really shitty boyfriend, addicted to drugs, and now you're starting to live the life of a prostitute. It's a really bad situation and I really feel sorry for you, Eliza. But it doesn't make it human trafficking. I'm sorry. So you're not a trafficking survivor. You just you're a survivor of your own bad choices. Okay? That's all this is that you're a survivor of your own bad choices. I mean, that all really kind of sums it up. Is that she's a survivor of her own bad choices. Now, I guess as far as the censoring goes, something I want to hit upon here, right? To us, yeah, the people who have been watching this situation play out, we're looking at it from the side of, well, obviously this isn't a terms of service violation because it was freely available. The video was freely available. It was consensual at the time. It was simply a screenshot. It wasn't nude or anything like that. It was just partially nude, right? So from our point of view, it's like, well, obviously this is wrong. But imagine that she's not actually coming from a place of... All right, and what we're... Sorry, just to expand on that a little bit. What we're sort of saying, and what I hear a lot of people saying is that she's doing it to censor her past. And that she's taking down all these accounts because she's trying to censor her past. Let's look at it from a different angle. What if she's simply doing it from a position of, you've taken one of my images and you're trying to make money out of it, and I do not consent to that. Therefore, you're trafficking me, and I have a right to be able to claim that on Twitter under, you know, the terms of service. Was never about shutting down people and stopping them from seeing her past. It was all about her trying to maintain this whole fucking stealing Instagram pictures, etc. is trafficking, which it's not. It's just like identity theft. And what they did, Venti and the Quartering, Yellow Flash, all the others who I haven't got the time to fucking list off. But all those people, all they've done is just shared a video, right? But she's trying to make out like this is, you know, this is not allowed. This could be considered human trafficking because I never gave you permission to share those pictures, and you're going to make money off me by sharing those pictures of me in the nude or in the half nude. It's like, sorry, bitch, tough shit. You don't get to decide. Now, what's scary is, maybe she doesn't actually have any influence, or very little influence over Elon, for example. She doesn't have any influence over him. Maybe she's got a little bit of influence over the Twitter safety head, or whoever that is, right? But maybe it's nothing like that at all. Maybe it's just simply that they consider this to be trafficking also. They're going along with Eliza's definition of what trafficking is. And it was never about censorship at all. But unfortunately, the Streisand effect happened, and now everyone knows way more than anything she could have censored. The people know now. And it's getting mainstream media attention as well. So I'm afraid it's not looking very good for you, Eliza. Look, the short and curlies of it is, you're making out like you're some kind of fucking... You're a survivor of abuse. I'll give you that. If that shit happened to you, you're a survivor of abuse. Because, I mean, like, oh, that was another thing that I wanted to get into, the survival sex, yeah? So, you know, if you're struggling to make ends meet and, you know, you need to like buy some medication, or you need to buy food, or you need to make rent this month, and you don't necessarily have a pimp, but you need to have sex in order to get money, in order to... So that's prostitution. You're just prostituting yourself. Are you trafficking yourself? Is that what you're saying? Or is it... I don't know. Who's trafficking you there exactly? That's why it can't be considered human trafficking, because you're basically having sex to survive, and no one's telling you to go and have sex to survive. You just don't have a better skill set to earn that amount of money that quickly. That's all that is, okay? You were a prostitute. If you go to a bloke and you say, can I crash on your couch for the night? And he says, only if you sleep with me. He's an asshole, but he's not a fucking trafficker. Yeah? All you want to do is minimize your own poor choices in life. It's a whole group. Shitty boyfriend, trafficking. Can't make the rent this month because you've got, you know, you shit with money, trafficking. Just don't worry about it. No one can ask you about it, and you're not obliged to answer them. It's a fucking win-win situation. All you got to do is say that you were a survivor, and no one's allowed to question you about it, because, you know, it's not the done thing, is it? You don't question a survivor. How dare you question a survivor? Who do you think you are, questioning this poor victim of abuse? Well, unfortunately, given your position, Eliza, given all the things that you're touting, the bold claims that you're making, given your position and the line of work that you are in, people are asking questions, and your integrity has been called into question now. because it's as clear as the nose on your face that you have been lying about an awful lot of stuff. It's verifiably provable now, okay? There is absolutely no doubt in anyone's mind that you are a compulsive liar. You change your hat so often that you've got 4 or 5 different fucking aliases. How do you expect people to believe that you are who you are when you've been so many different people? And anyway, we've been through all of this up until now. It's damn near impossible that your story, the way that it is described in this Teslarati article here, went to the Vans Warp Tour after meeting friends, met a photographer, set her sights on the big city of Los Angeles, far cry from her humble beginnings in rural Illinois. When she got there, her visit wasn't exactly what I expected. Photographer turned out to be some recruiter for a human trafficking ring. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Okay? You've already said in another interview, okay, so how that would work is like, let's say you and I are dating. Yeah? Who's that? Cheeto, hello, welcome. Thank you for watching. Anyway, she's turning around in that video and she's saying about, you know, how it would work is if we're dating and we can't make the rent this month or if we can't feed ourselves, and then you suggest to me, hey babe, why don't you sell your poontang and then that way we can go and get some food. That's considered trafficking, is it? No, that's what happened to you. I'm not saying that it's right. It's a shitty situation. You were naive. You were young. I'll give you that credit, okay? You had a shitty boyfriend who didn't respect you, and he was happy to be cucked because he was happy for the money to be coming in. I don't agree that that's... I don't disagree that that is an abusive relationship, and I feel bad for you, but it is not trafficking. You cannot even change my mind on that now. I don't even need you to explain your story because you've already done it in a roundabout way. You've never answered anybody directly, but just from watching all of your interviews and delving right down this rabbit hole, I know you are bullshitting. And now so does everybody else. All you had to do is let them leave that fucking post up on Twitter. That's all you had to do. All you had to do was not grift for one fucking day, and no one would have known anything about this. Well, not yet anyway. We'd have caught on soon enough. But now people are looking into the businesses that you're working with. Now people are following the money. Now people are looking at Bitcoin accounts. Now people are looking at government officials, some of which you're related with, some of which you're not, but are also human trafficking advisors or advocates or, you know, anti-human trafficking. And what's scary about that is that you're trying to push this into politics. You're trying to make this very broad catch-all term of human trafficking apply to all these other things that some of which are already crimes on their own. You don't need to put them under the umbrella of human trafficking, but some of them are just your poor life choices. Simple as that. That's all you're fucking doing. It's all a grift. So who are you grifting for? You're not necessarily grifting for yourself. But it does go to show from this article here, where she says, what was it? Somebody Tom. So this is 2016. She says, sex workers with a pimp might qualify as a trafficking victim or trafficking victims. That proves that that ideology, that mindset was in her head back in 2016. Okay? So it's important to look at the survival advocacy groups, the survivor advocacy... Put my teeth back in. Survival advocacy groups that were around at that time that were helping her, because I am going to bet your bollocks to a barn dance that they are the ones who put this whole idea into her head. And she's moved on from that now. She's trying to work her way into the sort of political sphere. I mean, getting Elon Musk to take down porn off Twitter, nothing wrong with that. That you know, that's commendable. But what's scary is, imagine it was excuse me. Imagine it was a 22-year-old girl or a 22-year-old boy who took photographs consensually, and now thousands of other people have retweeted this photo. Yeah, they weren't trafficked. They took and it's like full on nude. Yeah, tits, or you got the cock out, all that kind of stuff, full on nude. Yeah, they consented to that photo. Like it's a picture of Mia Khalifa or something like that. You're sharing it on Twitter now. Being shared all around the world on Twitter. You telling me that that's trafficking? Because that's what that is what it seems like you think trafficking is. And so what I'm worried about is that she's telling people that they've got a claim to make, either financially or whether it's just a strike, you know, community guideline strike or whatever it is, under false pretenses. This picture or this video is freely available. They were over the age of consent and they consented to having the photograph taken of it. That's what concerns me. Just like you've done to Brittany Venti, the quartering, etc. From our point of view, it's not a terms of service break, but from your point of view, it is. Because you think that that is human trafficking. And it's not. Let's just stop enabling this like it's a contentious point, okay? If you hear her say anything like that, call her out on it. Say, no, it's not. That is not human trafficking. Stop trying to run the grift. That's not what it is. But no one seems to be actually doing that. No one is turning around to and saying, this is not what human trafficking is. On all of the interviews, even Michael Malice, he's getting a bit confused by it, yeah, but he's still allowing her to carry on. He's not, like, hard-hitting and going, no, that's not trafficking. What the fuck are you talking about? I'd have called, if that was an interview between me and her, I'd have called her out straight away on that. Say, what do you mean? Are you trying to tell me that me taking photographs of you and making money of them, that's human trafficking? I mean, it's identity theft at best. But it's certainly not human trafficking. Is this really the thing that... Is this really what you're pushing to your survivors as an advocate? It's dangerous. It stops... It hinders the support of actual real survivors. And it completely demolishes the identification of victims. Because what you're doing is you're generalizing things. Now you're making it more broad. You've perverted the meaning of trafficking. And now it's made it almost impossible to actually identify the true sufferers of abuse and human trafficking. It's nearly 10 o'clock. Nearly 10 o'clock. Let's just see. There's a couple of other things that I've got to get through. So yeah, I do want to actually go over this. It's something that I found. I don't know whether anybody else has had an opportunity to read over this, but we're gonna go over this right now in detail. This is an interview that someone called Crazy Exy Cool wrote. It's an interview with Eliza Siep. Let's see. That good enough? A little bit closer. Shite. Hope that didn't mess anything up. Give me a second. Okay. Why is that sound coming over now? Never mind. Anyway. Something's gone wrong with OBS. That's not supposed to play that sound every time I change a scene. Right, anyway. Crazy Exy interview with Eliza Siep. For this edition of Crazy Exy Cool, I did my first interview with Eliza Siep, or Eliza Cuts if you were a fan of My Chemical Romance back in their prime. Eliza was the first rock and roll girlfriend a lot of women my age followed on the internet. And back in 2007, if you were on message boards, you probably heard a lot of rumours about her. She was the girlfriend fans of the band loved to hate. I followed I followed the message boards like a hawk in my teens, reading everything I could about her. After all, she was with my future husband. I think she means Gerard Way. The fandom was very unfair to Eliza, but she also broke ground as one of the first rock and roll girlfriends with a large internet following. When she and Gerard split, it got even worse, with rumours if Eliza alleged crazy ex and that doesn't make sense. When she and Gerard split, it got even worse with rumours of Eliza's alleged crazy ex antics. Okay. It doesn't look like there's good punctuation there, so I might be reading that wrong. Anyway, in summary, Eliza was publicly cyberbullied by a group of teenagers for roughly 2 years. Luckily for all of us, when Eliza and Gerard ended their romance and she became an amazing woman, model / badass, she now appears in music videos and is a spokeswoman for many different products. Luckily for me, she was kind enough to talk about her time as the internet's most notorious crazy ex-girlfriend. And so this article was published on April 6, 2017. So this is a year after that Chrissy Mayer thing. Where's it gone? I must have gone off it. But anyway, that other Chrissy Mayer thing was back in 2016. And this is a year later now. She's doing this interview. Anyway, there's a picture of her with Gerard Way in 2008. There's another picture of Eliza Siep in 2017 from Instagram under the name Eliza Knows. What is it exactly that you know, Eliza? What was the point of that fucking name? It's stupid. You sound like a stupid bitch. Anyway, this is where the interview starts. So, what stands out most in your memory when you think back on your time with the band and after the breakup? She answers, man, that seems so long ago. Because it was. I think getting to see artists with talent get recognition on a higher level for their talent was my best memory. That was a unique time where a lot of bands gained popularity all around the same time, like Fall Out Boy, Gym Class Heroes. I love to see any artist succeed. After the breakup, I was off the internet and for an extremely long time. I kind of went off the grid 100%. No TV, no internet, no radio. At times, no cell. I just focused on helping others. I'm grateful I took that path. Second question is, do you consider yourself a crazy ex, or do you feel that that was a title that was put on you unfairly? Lol, I would have to look at the source that was calling me crazy. Do they actually know me and the situation, or are they just assuming that from the outside? I am extremely passionate, but not in a harmful way. I think believing anything that you read on the internet is crazy, and I'm sure that it's interesting, but it's not accurate. That, my dear friends, is what we in the business call foreshadowing. Hello, Danks, if you're watching, which you're probably not. Anyway, she goes on to continue. Oh, sorry, the next question is, why do you think you were revived so negatively by the fandom? I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's the word that she was going for. I think it might have been... I don't know. We'll just go with that anyway. Why do you think that you were revived so negatively by the fandom? She says, it's funny to think about this years later. Once again, that time frame was unique to pop culture because that was the true start of the social media craze. When it's your actual life, she says, you don't see as much of the negative stuff. If I knew it was there... Oh, I knew it was there, but it wasn't important to me to troll false or negative things about my life. If I did see it by accident, it would hurt my feelings. I was a very normal / average person, so I couldn't understand what all of the hate was about. People tend to follow rather than lead. I feel like it was the perfect storm for bullying, and sadly, I was the target. I was just a regular girl trying to deal with an abnormal situation to the best of my abilities. Okay, next question is, when you look back on your blog / tell-all, commit me already, how do you feel about that? Right, so just to take a quick break here, if you don't know what commit me already is, you can go and find it. It's a highly autobiographical work of fiction that Eliza wrote, where she sort of replaces herself and Gerard Way with these two separate characters, but seemingly all of the things that are in it people can verify in hearsay at least, that it is an autobiographical sort of thing. And I'm not going to go through that right here because it's just way too long and cringe. But if you just go and find, if you go and search for Commit Me Already and Eliza Siep, or Eliza Cuts, I think she might have been known as back then, you'll get an idea of what it is. But anyway, she answers the question with, sadly, I was hacked. So what she wants us to believe is that her fucking live journal or Instagram or whatever the fuck it was that this was on was hacked, and someone wrote this blog in her stead. Okay? So she's saying, sadly I was hacked. I have and will press charges when people go over the top with internet bullying and harassment, period. It's hard when it starts to affect your real life, like dating or getting a new job. It forces me to have to explain to co-workers or a new love interest that 99% of what's out there is fake. Typically, people Google new people to be nosy. It's really uncomfortable. It's not funny or cute. That was a chapter of my real life. It's sad when it overshadows my other amazing accomplishments and bright spots from my past. Did you ever read any of the fan fiction that you were in? Lol, not once. I'm still confused as to what it is. I don't actually know about the fan fiction. I've never read any fan fiction about her. I'll have to find it, I guess. So she goes on to say, what was the craziest rumor you ever heard about yourself? The craziest of all time was that I was a woman pressing charges on Derrick Rose, the basketball player, for rape. That's a very serious subject in general, not the type of thing you want to be involved with or in. I'm sure there's a million out there, she says. The next question is, I feel that a lot of kids on the internet at the time didn't understand your sense of humor. You are very funny. Can you talk about the photo shoot that you did that addressed the various rumours about you? How did you feel about the pregnancy rumours? Thank you. I don't try to be funny, and I really don't expect people to understand me. I just have always kind of done my own thing. I'm into what I'm into for seasons of my life. Seasons of her life. Okay. Sometimes the general public likes my wave. Most of the time they don't, but it always makes me happy at the time. The photo shoot was really me playing around with my friend. We shot a lot back then. We had a lot of fun together. The pregnancy rumours were funny. My weight fluctuates a lot, maybe around 50 pounds up and down, so I just thought people thought I was preggo because of my weight. I never really wanted my own children, so I was definitely not getting pregnant. Now, I've also read another rumour that she did actually get pregnant with Gerard, and that's why he proposed to her. 2 months into the pregnancy, she got into a physical altercation. Nothing to do with Gerard Way, but she got into a physical altercation and she miscarried after that. Once she'd lost the baby, that's when Gerard broke up with her. That's the rumour, okay? It's all hearsay. There's no factual basis to that. I'm just trying to tell you what it is that I've seen and what I've heard. She goes on to say, did you ever... Oh, by the way, just so that you can see here, look. There she is. Kind of looks like she's pregnant. I mean, it kind of also looks like she could have something shoved underneath her top, but that's not 2 months worth of pregnancy. Yeah, that's way more far gone than 2 months worth of pregnancy. Okay, so I don't know about the rumors. That could just be, you know, that picture right there. That could just be her with a fucking... It could be her with a dog or a cat underneath her top. Do you know what I mean? It could be absolutely anything, but you can see where the rumours came from, obviously. But here's a few more photographs of her whilst we're just going through them here. This is on Flickr.com from a user named lose_x. I think it's 2 underscores actually. So yeah, so it's LUUZ__X. And so this is her photo stream. And so you can see here she is, Eliza Siep. Don't know who those people are there. Eliza Siep. There she is again. And that's the start of it. And then I think some of these run into what she was talking about, her friend. Yeah, look, is that a picture of her and her sister? Or is that 2 photographs of her put together? I'll let you guys make your mind up on that. I don't know who that is. Could be her mom. And so I think this starts now going into like photos of the band that she was in. See? So this is some other girl now. I don't know. Anyway, point being, there's a possibility that she could have been pregnant, she could have lost the baby, and that's when Gerard, you know, gave up on her. Where's that picture? Oh, there it was, yeah. But I don't know about this. Look, whether or not she was pregnant, I have no idea. But that picture looks like she was pregnant, but it could also be a cat. Anyway, we're going off the topic. Let's get back to crazy XE, whatever. Tuppity tum. So, did you ever talk to Gerard after the breakup? What about any other members of the world's most hated crew? No comment, lol. To the second question, yes. There are some great people from my past that I still will connect with. We don't talk about the past, it's ancient history. Everyone grew up and moved on. Yeah, it seems to be a running theme with you, isn't it? You know, every season of your life, yeah? For every season of your life, all the new people that you meet, let's just forget yeah, let's just forget all the things that happened last time because it'll destroy all of the lies that I've told over the years since then. And you might debunk me by talking about it in public. So let's not talk about it. Right. Is there anything that you wish that you'd have done differently? She says, not one single thing. Even the worst parts you learn from and grow from it. Everyone goes through hard things. You can let it break you or build you. Which is it, Eliza? Right? Which is it? Are you broken and damaged and you can't leave your ex? Yeah, so you keep going back to him. Or are you strong and it rebuilds you? You know what I mean? You look back on it. And if you were trafficked back then, back in like the early 2000s, yeah. If it made you stronger, why did you get trafficked like a second time later on in life? You just fell back into that abuse. It didn't make you stronger at all then, did it? But those are your words right there anyway. Do you ever feel like Eliza Cuts anymore? What advice would you give her if you could go back? Yes, I do. Eliza Cuts was my AOL Messenger, instant messenger scream name. I still love a lot of the same things now that I did back then. I wouldn't give myself advice. I would just give myself a heads up. Like, let myself know that curves would become cool. Let myself know that I would love and be loved a few times, not just once. And I really, really wish I could have told my 25-year-old self that I was actually going to look good or look better at 35. I'm sorry, love, I disagree. You looked better when you were younger. You look way better when you were younger. Now you look like a fucking melted Barbie doll. Who are some of your favourite crazy ex-girlfriends? And I don't think the interviewer means her ex-girlfriends. She means who are some of your favourite crazy ex-girlfriends? And so she's saying, oh, I love that Tiger Woods wife did. I love what Tiger Woods' wife did with that golf club. I don't really like violence, but she did what everyone secretly wants to do. And then finally she says, are there any current projects we should check out from you? I'm trying to keep my life as simple as possible. My greatest project is being the best aunt for my nephew possible. Everything else is just time filler. And that's the end of it. And then some people have commented on the end here, bring this back. If you don't know who Eliza is, you're missing out. And then someone else says, cannot believe E-Cuts expects us to believe that she was hacked. Laugh my ass off. Eliza, honey, I still have the MP3 file of you discussing said literary masterpiece on Hey Chris radio show circa 2008. So don't even go there. So they're saying that. I wonder if anyone can find that. The Hey Chris radio show circa 2008 where she was on it. I wonder if anyone can find that MP3 that she's talking about, or that person's talking about there. But either way, it seems like the fan fiction was written by her and she wasn't hacked, and it is a highly autobiographical account of her life from when she was married to this Siep bloke all the way up until when she was in My Chemical Romance. So, look, after going, all I've done really here tonight is go over her own words, go over what she said. All I've done is look at the facts, look at the dates that she said. Everything is verifiable. What she said is what she said, and it doesn't make sense with the dates, the other, like the articles like this. They're conflicting in her nature. So her nature right now, and obviously since 2016 at least, that whole nature has been on the sort of back of escaping from being a sex worker and into being in, like, you know, like something a bit more, you know, straight and narrow. But I think it's important because look, let's just take a word and say that she really does want to help victims of abuse, yeah, and trafficking. She really wants to help those people. You have to come clean now, love. I thought a part of a survivor's story was owning that story and being able to share it with the world, but you don't do that. What you do is you give some vague account which can be interpreted in a way that sounds like it's trafficking, but when you nuance it, yeah, when you look at the nuance, it's not exactly like that. So anyway, look, me personally, I think this is just all one big grift. Yeah, here's a photo log. For some reason, it's in Spanish. This is from 2006. It's on the Wayback Machine, this is. It's photolog.com/Eliza_cuts, if anyone's interested. Photolog.com/Eliza_cuts. There's a Reddit board asking if anybody knows about her. Then there's that Manuel Defango tweet. That's how I found out about the Manuel Defango tweet. Manuel Defango's now been taken down. Yeah, look at this is the confusion here. Her name is Eliza Bleu and lies and says Gerard Way trafficked her. Can I just say something controversial real quick? I noticed something interesting about an anti-trafficker survival story. So Eliza Bleu, a known anti-trafficking advocate, says she was trafficked at 17 when she came to Los Angeles. As a 17-year-old minor, Eliza moved to LA with big dreams of becoming a star. 48 hours later, the man who promised her heaven on earth sold her to another man for a mere $500. Today, Eliza is an advocate of combating human sex and whatever, right? And they're saying Eliza was born in 1985, making it the year 2002 when she started being trafficked. Eliza Bleu has not always been known as Blue, yada yada, this and that, yeah? Great. Okay, so this is a fluffed up story. It's like a fake biography. She was never born on the 16th of September 1985, and it even says Mars. Yeah? It's bullshit, and this person is taking it for granted. You know, he's taking it for the gospel. Under no circumstances has Eliza herself ever claimed that she was trafficked by Gerard Way and that her abuse started in 2006 or 2007. She's never, ever, ever claimed that. Where it comes from is people making assumptions and not doing the proper research. Now we have the absolute 100% debunked fucking narrative. The Blind Date episode that she was on didn't air until 2003. She was 21 at the time of filming in 2002. Between 1999 and 2002, that's when the alleged trafficking and sex abuse happened. Before that, from 1997 to 1999, is when she's supposedly groomed. That is not contentious anymore. We have got the timeline. It is verifiably true now. So if anyone is watching this and they have got any confusion around the date of 2006 or heard that she's saying that Gerard Way trafficked her. That is not true. She has never ever once said in any interview that she was trafficked in 2007. It's all of you lot putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5. You've made a mistake and we've debunked it now. So let's put that to bed. That's very important that we put that to bed now. Yeah? Stop saying that she said that her trafficking started around the My Chemical Romance days, because that never happened, and she never implied that it happened. She's never said that. She's always maintained that she moved to LA before her 18th birthday and she was trafficked from the age of 15. Sorry, she was groomed from the age of 15. That is the main claim that she's making. Not once does she say any years, 2005, 2006, 2007, in relation to that. It's all assumption that everyone else has made. So please, let's put that to bed, that one at least. So, what I wanted to just hit upon quickly, because I'm going to end the stream very soon. Just what I wanted to hit upon quickly was, we know that the ideology of people, hookers with a pimp, could also be considered trafficking survivors. But here she goes. She says on December 11th, 2022, I've never spoken about this previously, but my story as a survivor is in question, so here we go. And by the way, she doesn't actually address her story as a survivor. No, she addresses her story as a survivor, but she doesn't address her story as a victim. Okay? She's saying, in the summer of 2013, I emailed Eve's Angels at info@evesangels.org, desperately asking for help. My first survivor advocate was Cheryl. So, then apparently she was like in and out of her relationship or her abuse. She kept going back to her trafficker. If she can leave at any point, yeah, if she's free to leave, she is not being trafficked, okay? Can we just stop enabling that narrative? She's not being trafficked. If she is consenting and she can leave, it is not trafficking. Even if she's got a pimp, it is not trafficking. It's sex work, yeah? It's still illegal. You're still breaking the law, Eliza, which is why it seems like you've been doing this whole fucking time, yeah? Breaking the law and admitting to it. I don't know whether there's like statutes of limitations, which actually, that brings up a very good point. The photographer. If anyone can find out who this photographer was, even if you did traffic her, I think the statute of limitations is up on that one now. So please come out and just either admit to it or explain to us what really, really happened, okay? Because you are not a trafficker by the sound of it, okay? And even if you were, I think the statute of limitations is up on that one now. Not sure. Could be something else. If I am incorrect, please correct me in the comments. Which reminds me, boys and girls, if you are liking the stream, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Share the video as well. You do all the things that help me to build up my channel, yada yada. Anyway, so there's this Eve's Angels, yeah, that was run by Annie Dunwald. And that was her first sort of person. Well, she's saying that her first survivor advocate was Cheryl. That must be a person who works at this Eve's Angels. I had their website because it was on the back of a Bible I had gotten at a strip club. So you were working at a strip club, okay. Not being trafficked. You were just in sex work. And Eve's Angels, I've looked at their tax returns. And it says that they are described as a charity or a not-for-profit organisation that helps women to get out of sex work. Not trafficking. I hate the fact that you are using this phrase, survivor. Because it makes it seem like you were a victim. And, look, I've already said, you are a victim of abuse. If that shitty stuff happened to you when you were 16 to 21, you were a victim of abuse. I can't deny that. It's really shit what happened to you, but it wasn't human trafficking. If you're working at a strip club and you've got quotas to meet and your boss is telling you, look, you better fucking get on the clock because you've got quotas to meet. Well, what's he going to do if you don't meet those quotas? He's just going to go, look, sweetheart, I got 1,000 more whores out there that want to fucking come in here and work, right? I've given you a chance and you're not pulling in the numbers. I'm sorry, I've got to let you go. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's not going to say, listen, you better fucking get back up on there on that stage or I'm going to smash your fucking face. You better do as you're told, bitch. You work for me, remember? You ain't getting no money out of this at the end of this fucking session. I'm keeping it. That's not what happened. He was your boss. And you're complaining about, oh, well, you didn't have control over who you saw or when you saw them. It's like, bitch, if you're working at a strip club, you do as your manager says. It doesn't matter where you're working, you do as your manager says, or you go find a different fucking line of work. That's not trafficking. You are not a survivor at this point. Originally, you were a survivor, and you realised that after having sex with a whole bunch of guys for money, that it was easy and that you could do it. And then you got out of that life and you ended up cutting hair for a little while. You started, hanging out with Jeffree Star, yeah, and cutting Gerard Way's hair in My Chemical Romance, Most Hated Crew, all that kind of stuff. You got yourself a little life together and then they fucked you off and then you started doing something else. I think you were going to go on American Idol, weren't you? Be a singer. You were, you had your own little band and everything was going well. And then all of a sudden, after Pop Idol or American Idol, things didn't seem to be going quite the way that you thought. The dream was lost a little bit, and so you fell back on, the old ways, didn't you? You fell back on, well, I need to make ends meet, so I better start selling my fucking poontang again, or go and work in a strip club, or something like that. That's what you did, and it sounds like to me, even up until 2016, you were an escort. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a prostitute. Escorts get to choose, their own thing. But it's still, a very grey area, isn't it? We know what you're saying. Look, from all of the interviews that we've put together, with all the interviews that we've watched, all the interviews that we've read, we know now what you mean by this. We know what you mean by trafficking. We know that you're just trying to cover up your own poor life choices, and that's all it is. It's a major grift. And the biggest problem is that you are doing more harm to victims and survivors than you know. And the problem is, I don't even think that you think that you're doing anything wrong. I think you truly believe this. I think that you truly have been brainwashed by these people who picked you up, yeah, and helped you on the road to survival. They have filled your head with all of this fucking bullshit, and now you truly believe it, and now you're trying to teach other people that this is right. And the very, very important thing to take away from this Yeah, I think I've just switched on a penny, you know, turned on a knife edge here, right? Because I don't believe that she believes what she's saying is true. And I don't think that she really believes that if she opened up to everyone about what really happened, that anyone would accept what she has to say as human trafficking. Because if she truly believed it, if she really believed in the narrative, she'd just come out and say it. She'd just come out and say, yeah, this is what happened to me. And then people would turn around and go, no, that's not what trafficking is. And she'd be like, yeah, no, it is. Like, my survivor advocates, this is what my survivor advocates were telling me. This is what I've learned. If it wasn't for them telling me this, I wouldn't never have been able to self-identify and get out of this situation, you know. But that's not what she's doing. Every time she's asked about it, she clams up and she's like, well, that's a really tough question, that is. Or she's like, oh, I don't want to talk about this. You know, it's been a really long day and I don't want to have to talk. So you lied to my manager, and then you got a survivor on the phone so you could talk about their trauma. You don't actually believe that people would believe that what you've been through is trafficking, and that's why you won't say anything about it. Because it's all one big lie. You know very well that the things that you are trying to pass off as trafficking, as abuse, are wrong. And you know that no one in their right mind would ever consider it as trafficking or abuse. It's just your own poor life choices. And I think that's where I'm going to end this stream for today, boys and girls. It's 10:30 here. I've done 2.5 hours. Yeah, 8 till 10:30, 2.5 hours. And I think we've covered a lot. We've covered enough to sort of call her out on a bullshit and expose all the lies. It's not something that people over the last 2 weeks haven't been hitting upon anyway. But the important points to take away from this are, if she truly believed what she was saying, then she would have no problem in saying it. Yeah, just one thing. I'm just going to show you this. It's a short from Brittany Venti.
Let me show you a few examples of some of the things that Eliza has said.
Already, you know.
Jan's it.
Yeah, it should be on yours, so click forward. It should have.
I don't think he got it.
He didn't. Yeah, I'm sorry. He didn't do a mashup. I apologize.
Okay.
They literally had no examples to show Eliza and her good work and her advocacy for the award they're giving her. They had 0 examples. They had no highlights to put in the reel. And she just posted this on Twitter. Like, guys, look at the good work I do at receiving this award for being a professional victim. Here are her highlights. We got nothing, boss. Anyway, continuing. She posted this onto her own Twitter, guys.
Let me show you.
And so that's the grift, boys and girls. Okay? Brittany couldn't have succinctly put it any better. Sorry, I could not have put it any succinctly better than Brittany there. Well done, girl. Don't delete the tweet, by the way. Brittany, if ever you see this, don't delete the tweet. Because you've got to stand by this now until Twitter acknowledges that it is incorrect, that this was not a terms of service break. A fucking noise. Anyway, I don't know whether you can actually hear it, but I can hear it in my monitor. But it's like anyway, it doesn't matter. Brittany, whatever you do, don't delete that tweet. Okay? Make them change it. Make them admit that they were wrong. Because then that means, if they admit that they were wrong, it means that that fucking Eliza's house of cards completely comes crumbling down and she will not have a platform anymore to speak on. I don't know how she's getting all these awards. There is something I'm going to hit up on in a different episode because I've still got to actually do the research on it. But we need to take a very close look at the survival advocates that rescued her. If there are researchers out there, investigative journalists, get on that. Start looking into the companies that she's involved in, and specifically the ones that are leading up to 2016. From like her beginning of, you know, her survivor story, 2013 to 2016, where she's turning around and saying, you know, if you've got a pimp, you might actually be considered as a victim of human trafficking. Right? So we know that the indoctrination went on between those 3 years. So if we can find something more on that, that'd be decent. But the other thing is we need to figure out where the money is going. And there's a lot of people working on that at the moment. And that is one of the most important things. All of the shit I've gone on about today, this is not important, okay? We kind of already knew that she was a liar. I just wanted to, because I'm a bit late to the game. There are a few things that I found out that other people didn't know. I've debunked a couple of lies that she's told. I've debunked the fact that people think that she was saying that she was groomed and trafficked in 2006. That's not true. The Blind Date episode didn't come out in 2006. It came out in 2003. All of it is really kind of inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, i.e. the censorship, i.e. where the money is going to, and i.e. where the indoctrination is coming from. Those are the three most important points right now. Indoctrination, where's the money, censorship. And so that's where I'm going to leave it this stream, boys and girls. Follow Blue's clues and you'll be able to figure the story out for yourself. Maybe next time we'll have a little bit more to talk about other subjects, because a lot has been happening over the last couple of weeks. Maybe we'll have something different. Maybe we'll talk about Eliza again. What's happening this week? I don't actually know, because I'm trying to put together some pre-recorded material so that I can release videos like on a 3 daily basis or something like that. I'm also working on the YouTube shorts, which I'm trying to cut together and put out. So who knows? But I'm going to keep a very close eye on this story. Another story you should be keeping a close eye on as well is the Andrew Tate story. And I think we'll be covering that in another pre-recorded video as well. Anyway, I'm going to just give you one more quick reminder. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment down below. What did you like about this stream? What didn't you like about this stream? Give me any other comments if you want. But I guess until next time, boys and girls, thank you for joining me. Thanks if you said hello in the chat. I'll see you next Wednesday for another broadside, but I'm pretty sure I'll see some of you in Twitter Spaces and on Twitter. So until next time, take care everyone. Have a good night. Ta-da.